Good evening to the Monday Dugout, the last week when you look at it of the league stages. But when
Last week, how come?
of the league stages,
Next Monday also we'll be here.
yeah, but
For the
that's
league
for the
stages.
playoffs. Playoffs will start now in that week.
That they will start.
But apart from that, before we get to all of that,
But just that reminds me, when has it ever happened that your playoffs are already done?
Day after tomorrow they'll be done in
No,
Delhi,
but
Mumbai.
even now, with three
Yeah.
also decided, almost done. See, today technically one more team can be out of the race, technically. Then it will only leave one game, which is be of any importance, that's Delhi Mumbai.
The day after tomorrow.
So imagine if, let's say, LSG is to lose today, pretty much everything that you want to know about IPL is done in terms of playoffs, and you only look forward to one game. Rest of the games will mean, yes, to finish top 2 and all those contexts, but playoff decided this early. I can't remember any season.
But the
it's happened.
fourth can be a very closely fought battle also. If Lucknow wins today and Delhi, Mumbai, and then Delhi beats Mumbai and then Delhi loses.
what about 2020?
And then Mumbai
Was
also.
decided that
And Lucknow is also playing the
2020 was
last
that
game.
Maverick here, yeah, perhaps.
2020,
Where you had only 2 points
Lucknow-
separating the team that finished fourth and last.
Interestingly, Lucknow is playing the last league game also.
Today they lose, it doesn't matter.
No, but you never
no,
know.
no? If today
Yeah,
they
if
lose,
they
it will
lose,
not
they are
matter.
out. But what
Khatam.
if they don't? Then it will get very
I
interesting.
think they will.
If they lose, if they win today and then Delhi beats Mumbai, it will get very interesting then.
But already thoughts are going into India-England.
Yeah.
And especially when you look at one statement from a Kiwi who's heading England, Ben Stokes. We didn't see any news of him. What is happening to him for the past 2-3 months?
Oh, I knew. He came to India.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
for a short time. For what did he come? We never came to know.
It was some promotion or something like that.
People were
Some sort of a
speculating
tie-up.
that he was there with
No,
the
no.
Mumbai Indians or something like
No.
that.
He came for some promotional event or something, if I'm not mistaken.
It could be the promotional event for or the very same thing that he is practicing right now, but has association with a certain brand that is also.
Which brand? We don't know. Na? Tell our viewers.
So again, I don't know what he was for back then in India, but he's not been drinking these days, and he has this.
Maybe that's why he's not in the news for the last 2 months.
Because
You never know.
No. I mean, jokes apart, he is such a big cricketer that whether he's drinking or not, he makes news. Na?
yeah. But yes, the news
At
is.
least sports page news.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'll make front page news.
But this was a very big thing because before this, I assumed that cricketers don't drink at all. So him not drinking in itself is a very.
No.
You've never met the Aussies then.
No, not Aussies. It's a Western culture. When you're
Aussies
playing
and
county
English.
cricket, whatever, they finish a game. For them, it's not like a round
no,
of beers
Indians.
and all. In India, we have majority people who don't. I mean, that's the culture. But abroad, like you're in Australia or in England, it's a very common thing after a game of cricket. Like even if you're playing county cricket, they go to the pub.
David Boone, who just retired as ICC match referee recently, 89 tour, he consumed from Australia to England 52 cans of beer.
There was a
on the
competition. I think
yes.
Jeff Marsh,
Alan Border?
they were like competing who can have.
Mitchell Marsh, when he kept his foot on the trophy, he was also.
No, but not that level.
But it's a very casual thing for them. Again, it's a bit of a taboo for us over here and in Asian countries. But otherwise, having a beer is almost like a routine thing for them.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to wait for the weekend.
I think every team other than the subcontinental teams, it's a practice.
Yeah.
Whether you're in Zimbabwe, you're in South Africa, you're in West Indies.
But Indian players also, now that they stay with so many overseas players all throughout almost 1/3 of the year, they also sort of would be.
That I don't know. We're not here to discuss. That's their personal life.
Yeah.
Whatever they want to do.
We've never had any alcohol brands promoting cricket or sports in India, right? Never.
No.
Wills, that was tobacco.
Yes, tobacco. But you had surrogate advertising.
Surrogate, yeah.
Where you would have then, like say McDowell's or things like that,
Music
Royal
CD.
Challengers, with
Kingfisher.
either soda. But Kingfisher was never an official sponsor of the team, but of like the Indian team. But yeah, in IPL. But they're also, I mean, they would promote the brand Kingfisher, but then it would be associated either to a soda Or
Like
Because if you look at-
Carlsberg glasses these days,
like that.
but
If you look
they don't
at
make glasses.
South Africa, there was Castle Lager Test Series that used to happen. A
VB.
Victoria Bitter
VB.
for Australia.
VB. There it's
Maybe for
pretty
the
common.
longest time, yeah.
Yeah. Then for the New Zealand rugby team, Stein Lager,
Foster's,
Foster's.
they used to have.
But Foster's used to. I thought there was just one iconic brand, but I thought they never promoted any. Was Carlton and United was the brewery, or was it a
No,
bank?
Foster's, there used to be Australian.
I think it was for AFL, I guess.
May have been, but I remember that one time they were pretty active.
Was Carlton and United a brewery? No, I don't
Maybe.
think so. Yeah, so Ben Stokes is quit drinking apparently.
He's quit it temporarily. His interesting comments from him. He's not had a single sip since the 2nd of January, but he also says that he's not one of those who can stay without it for a long time or becomes that
No,
person.
he is doing it very not for fitness.
Rehab, no?
No,
for the preparation.
Nothing. He is very smart. He is endorsing a brand, okay, which is a non-alcoholic brand.
beverage.
So as soon as that comes, he is now promoting that this is a way of telling people that. So that's always people are saying this. Oh, look how dedicated he is. He wants to perform really well, and he's focusing on the England series, and that's how news will be made. People forget what's the messaging behind it. He's tied up with some non-alcoholic brand, and to push that culture, he's now definitely there is a relation to that. You can
And there
see
is
it.
the
You
recovery
can-
thing as well, as he
No,
says.
but that recovery, he's been injured so many times before, never said it. He ties up with a non-alcoholic brand and then will say, oh, this helps it. So the whole thing is that, see, this helps in recovery. It helps you stay fitter. It helps you do this. Which again, factually is correct, what he's saying. I'm not denying that. But it took him so long to realize that. He obviously knew it. It's just that he's tied up with a brand, so he's doing it. That's why this is news. So just for anyone who's gullible enough to fall for it, thinking, oh, he's so dedicated. He must be, and he must be fired up to do very well against India. But there is a hidden motive behind his statement as well. And that has a marketing tinge to it. And that's the reality. Anyway, let's dive into the subject that we're discussing at hand this evening. And that is Asia Cup. Various different reports coming out, and that is consistently changing. So who can bring us up to date with all that has happened?
Yeah, so what has happened is in the morning there came a report from the Indian Express, and also it was corroborated by us also in Sports Today, that India is pulling out of the Asia Cup. They don't want to play Pakistan. They don't want to play in a tournament that will be headed by a Pakistan entity, because as you know, in the ACC, it's Mohsin Naqvi who is the head. Now, about an hour back, Devajit Saikia, the BCCI secretary, has stated that there is no mention about the fact that whatever I'm seeing the reports that Asia Cup might get cancelled, we are pulling out of the tournament. Nothing has been made, no decision has been made on that. We are not even thinking on those lines. So basically, in order to temper down the fire, he's just said that, okay, we are not discussing anything at this point. I think it is in August, right? The ACC meeting that's going to happen for the Asia Cup, Nikhil?
Yeah.
It'll be in August. So that is the current status quo. Started with one flare that yes, India is pulling out of the Asia Cup, not going to play against Pakistan. But now the firefighting is being done by stating that nothing of this has been even thought about.
Okay, these are the official bits that we've gotten from the BCCI and sources-based story, both of which have been reported. My question is, what does everyone think? Can India afford to, and do you see India pull out of Asia Cup in your own mind, in your own head, based on your own experience, or does everyone think that no, this is all posturing at the moment? So each of us can.
Just before getting into that what could happen or what all the statements, by what the statement I read from Devajit Saikia, one thing that was very hard to digest for me is that when he said that there has been no discussion also on these lines. What I'm trying to say is that we cover cricket. As soon as the tensions escalated between India and Pakistan, our first instinct as people who cover sports was that what effect will it leave on sports? on cricket specifically. And the first thought that we had was this Asia Cup, that what will India, how will that Asia Cup happen? We've been talking about this since the time the war situation was going on the borders. I'm not ready to believe this, that BCCI, whose job is this, did not even, there wasn't even a mention about it as far as after when the war was taking place, because as stakeholders of Indian cricket, their first thing is to protect or plan how cricket is going to work from there. So that is something that for me personally, I sort of wasn't able to buy.
See, I mean, that is also because it's not to say that individually each of them may not have a thought process. But for you, when you come out and let's say he is a secretary, when he comes out and says, he has to have a collective decision of the BCCI. For you to come up with he's coming out with a statement from the BCCI. Personally, he may have thought of anything, you, me or whatever. But he needs to have an official meeting with everyone and then BCCI can
for giving out a statement.
Yeah. So I can buy that. When he's coming out and saying that, listen, we haven't thought about it, that means they haven't had a meeting where they've discussed.
Officially nothing has been discussed.
He may still have an opinion about it and XYZ. So till the time where you have a meeting where you, see again, what is the purpose of a meeting? Somebody may come up with points which are in favor of that, some against, and after that you take a collective decision. So in that sense, I don't look at it with skepticism, because he has to now say the official word. He's the official spokesperson, he's the secretary of the board, and that's why he's issuing a clarification that BCCI collectively has not taken a decision yet. That's what I think he's trying to say. Also, not that he didn't think of it personally or other members didn't.
Also, two things that come to my mind when you look at the competition at hand from the lens of the BCCI. We've seen that, and again we saw it in the last edition as well, where things were so haphazard and things were just not clear, because Pakistan wanted all their matches to be held there, and we saw that the tournament was then taken to Sri Lanka in circumstances where once the tournament had started, then also you were thinking of changing it from one city to the other because of climatic conditions. So my view, or the BCCI's view probably from here could be that this is again a tournament that is not, let's say, it doesn't follow the kind of strict protocols and scheduling that the ICC does, or maybe because back then you had an Indian president of the ACC, you could just get things done. So perhaps right now BCCI are a little laid back, and this is not one of the concerns right now, which is the Asian Cup.
So you think they take it very lightly, this tournament?
It can be put on the back burner is what I'm saying. And why I say that, because BCCI have got bigger fish to fry, or have had bigger fish to fry over the last couple of weeks. There's a Virat Kohli retirement that perhaps they were taken by shock. There was also the IPL scheduling that they were working on, and they were trying to get things back on track. You were busy with speaking with the other ministries, etc. So this conversation perhaps on these lines, and you were then thinking of what your approach road will be now in test cricket going forward. So and we heard from various reports, we saw various reports cite the fact that a lot of the BCCI machinery was after Virat Kohli and the former players as well, to ensure that Virat somehow retracts or reconsiders his decision. So there's been bigger fish to fry, and getting the IPL back on track was perhaps the bigger fish to fry for them than perhaps looking at ACC.
That's not the debate, whether they were thinking about it. I want to know, will it see again, what is it that everyone cares for? Whether BCCI is paying attention to it now or later doesn't matter, right? The fact is, everyone at the moment, if you're a cricket fan, you want to know whether you will be playing Pakistan or not going forward.
No, you're not playing Pakistan. That is for sure.
So that's my thing. What do you think? What will BCCI have the courage to pull out of the Asia Cup going forward? Or you think, no, this is just right now because the atmosphere is such, you create this noise, this hangama, and later you agree.
So you participate in the tournament, but you don't play Pakistan. And
how can that be?
You're playing the other teams, and you forfeit
6-7 teams.
You forfeit the points.
Either you play Pakistan or you don't.
A final, can't do that. Either you play or you don't.
But this is exactly what you'll be having in mind when you compete against Pakistan, or will be expected to compete against Pakistan in ICC tournaments as well.
You'll play there also.
Next year also.
ICC we'll get to when we do. Right now I want to know, what do you think will be BCCI's stand? They can't have a thing that I will not play. If you go into a tournament, you can't control who you come up against in the semis, finals.
But we've seen that happen in cricket, right? Where teams have chosen to not play a certain opposition.
Yeah, but that did not come in any situation where you have a semis and final. Now, no team in the history of the sport has given up on a semi-final.
On a semi-final.
So if that is the case, if you're going to give up to a semi-final, final situation, then you might as well not play the tournament. Point is that you have to have a clear-cut thought.
see.
With
Either
semi-final,
you care
you can still pull enough strings to ensure that you don't meet Pakistan in the semi-final. You can have
if
the
you're
groups
going,
or whatever.
you either play or don't.
You cannot. We cannot be speculating that you're fixing semi-finals. We cannot be.
I'm not saying, but what we've seen is you've had things very clear, even in the World Cup that took place here, that
Harshit,
Delhi
what
will
if you
not
come
be
in
playing.
the final? I
Final
don't want to get into.
is
So
a-
then we have to have a clear-cut thing. We can't be saying that either you're playing them, you're not playing them. Something they'll have to make up their mind. No? Either you play the tournament, you don't play the tournament. Either you play, you isolate them, or you pull out, the tournament happens. You'll have to take a firm and definite stand, whatever that might be. And that's what I want to know. What is going to be BCCI stand?
Ideally, looking at the current mood, what does the BCCI protocol follow? BCCI says that whatever the Indian government tells, we will follow. Now, this will snowball. This will continue to snowball until July, August, until the meeting. In an ideal world, you shouldn't play Pakistan in any kind, be it in the Asia Cup or be it in the ICC event. Asia Cup in particular, at this point, if I have to look at a very practical world, it should be cancelled. It should be cancelled. But knowing past experiences, when Anuri happened in 2016, did India play Pakistan? Yes. When Pulwama happened, did India play Pakistan? Yes. A Pahalgam happened. I don't trust this government, or I don't trust the BCCI that they will pull out of an ACC event, or they'll pull out of an ICC event. I don't think they have the courage to do it. Far more ghastlier things have happened in Indian history. Why am I talking about these three? In 1999, heights of Kargil, you played Pakistan in a World Cup. 2008, Mumbai happened. You invited them on a red carpet for a bilateral series under the so-called pretext of peace. In this current scenario, the numbers are here. 200 crores is the estimate that an India-Pakistan game generates. 170 million is the broadcast deal that the broadcasters have got for an 8-year cycle of the Asia Cup. 170 million with 15% getting to the 5 permanent members in the ACC. 15% revenue comes from that. 200 crores plus 15% revenue. Is India going to let go of that? I don't think so. If they had the courage, if the government and the BCCI had the courage, they would have told the team, don't play them in 2019. It came 3 months after the dastardly attacks in Pulwama. Did they do it? No. What gives me the confidence that they will do it in the aftermath of Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor? It will happen. In the practical, money-minded world of today, there will be an Asia Cup in September. You will see India-Pakistan. The fans will cheer them. You will see India-Pakistan in February, March 2026. That's the bitter reality.
In ideal situations, the BCCI ideally should try to isolate Pakistan totally, because not just because of the whatever is happening, but also they should use their muscle power that they have, the money power, that the so-called money power that BCCI has. BCCI is the richest board in world cricket. Then ideally, even if they don't play an ACC event, I'm going to an extent and saying that you can even boycott an ICC tournament. To have an ICC tournament or an Asian tournament without India, I think it's very it's going to be very tough for any tournament to sustain without a team like India. So that is where India should ideally be boycotting Pakistan to the fullest and make sure that India is definitely playing, but Pakistan isn't. But I totally agree with Sidvi sir over here. That is not going to happen. I'm saying, in the best case scenario, when you had a representative from India heading the ICC, you were not able to boycott Pakistan over there. You sort of got Pakistan on a middle ground. You decided with them that we are also not going to come, and so don't you come. So despite having a person from India heading the ICC, you were not able to sort of push Pakistan.
He was not heading ICC then.
No, when that decision was taken, he was.
He was not.
No, he wasn't.
I'm saying, even at that level you were not able to boycott, despite being the richest board in the world and being the most powerful board. You were not able to boycott Pakistan. You had to come down to a level where you had to agree that we will also not come, you also don't come here when we are hosting in India. Now suddenly in ACC, where you have a Pakistani representative in Mohsin Naqvi, then how are you expecting that you're going to boycott Pakistan? If you're in that tournament, you'll anyways have to play. The best situation would be that Pakistan won't come to India if India is hosting it, or the whole tournament goes to Dubai. That is a situation where I see the Asia Cup happening. By any means it is going to happen, because if India had that power should have been shown during the Champions Trophy. I think Champions Trophy was the best situation where India could have totally sort of shown that how powerful they are by taking the tournament totally out of Pakistan and having it at a neutral venue. That did not happen. Pakistan has the support of all the other boards, and I think that is very clearly visible now. The bubble that was there, that we as Indians were living in, where we thought that the day we want we can sort of isolate Pakistan totally from cricket at least, I don't think that is the case, because during the Champions Trophy as well, if you just go back and look at the if you just revisit the statements that came from overseas players, from overseas boards, it was all towards India, diverting towards India, that India has that advantage. India has that advantage. There was nobody who was, sort of understanding what the relation between the two countries is. Over there, it was going against India, and that is why India came on a middle ground and had to sort of come on a level playing field, where they said that okay, we are not coming, then you also don't come, and you had to agree to that. So if you were that powerful, you should not have agreed over there. So now also you'll have to agree. I don't think you'll have any other option. So there's this bubble of being the most powerful board in the world. I think it's been bursted. It was bursted during the Champions Trophy, and it'll be bursted once again.
Question the government. Don't criticize the BCCI, because what the BCCI always has said in each of these situations, we will take the decision what the government tells us.
But
in the case of
what is the
Pakistan,
government supposed to do over here? I'm saying the
in
government.
the case of Pakistan,
I'm saying government says totally to stop playing Pakistan anyways. Then maybe then cricket forever might just collapse in Indian cricket, because India, if they'd stop playing the multinational tournaments, then where will India play? Because them pulling out of the tournament, BCCI should have the guts, in fact, to go out there and boycott a whole ICC or an ACC tournament. I'm telling you, the tournament will not be able to survive without an India. I don't understand why isn't India doing that. The government can't do anything in that. I don't see the government doing anything
because
in that.
They have to tell the BCCI, boss, what you are saying, no, boycott all this, they have to tell them, because they will not take an independent. I can't remember when
it's not the government's job to run cricket. Government can only stop the team from going to Pakistan or stop the Pakistani team coming to India. They cannot tell you that which tournaments you should play, which tournaments you should not be playing.
But they have been. The whole thing, when BCCI decided not to travel to Pakistan for the Champions Trophy, they had said there are governments not allowed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They can stop them from not traveling and stop Pakistan from coming.
Even
not playing the tournament altogether.
No,
that decision can be taken by the government.
See, they will have to consult the BCCI, and I think even though it doesn't happen overtly, it has to happen. There has to be an understanding. At the end of the day, BCCI may be an independent body, but they represent India. So any decision that they might take with Pakistan in mind, I think they will have to get government clearances. So supposing, let's
even
say,
if you're to be a little clear, even if you're playing on a neutral venue,
wherever you are, I mean, for example, if the government doesn't want you to engage with Pakistan at any level, then if BCCI wants to play the Asia Cup, they may want to continue playing, but they'll have to follow if the government does decide to step in. A lot of time government does not, and they allow them to take the decision. But if they were to tell them that no, we don't want you playing, then the BCCI will have no option but to pull out. My point is, and why is it that there is now, for example, there has been this whole issue, and now because it's taken the shape of a geopolitical war, it's not just India, Pakistan anymore. Various other countries have been involved. So now when there is this sort of campaign on social media that do not go to Azerbaijan and Turkey for holiday, right? You're not expected to go there, which is fair. I mean, but I think it should be at the end of the day left to all of us to do it. I may not want to go there because of the stance that they had, and I will And quite honestly, I would not want to holiday to Turkey or Azerbaijan and contribute to the economy. You would want to do that. But now it's not just limited to social media, but the governments also step in where, the airline license have been, some partnerships have been, yes, so they have been halted and they've taken the government to court. So I'm saying when the government is playing an active role in doing that, when you're looking at various other relationships in and around Pakistan, then I fail to believe that the government will not step in here when a decision like that will come about while playing Pakistan. And I think that even now when the BCCI is coming out and saying that no decision has been taken, I firmly believe there is no smoke without fire. I'm sure BCCI is thinking on those lines. It may not have been firmly made into a decision that comes out and can be spoken about at this time, but surely these things have been discussed. And as things stand right now, where I'm saying even little things are being looked at very carefully, you really cannot be having India-Pakistan playing in any tournament, and especially more so Asia Cup, which, as Harshit had pointed out earlier as well, is still a tournament that's very fluid, is a tournament that can be tweaked last moment, and we've seen that happen. Worst case scenario, if you cannot isolate a team and it's headed by some other authority. I think Mr. Gavaskar on Sports Today only said that, which made news across not just India but globally, where he said that you play your own series then. If Asian Cricket Council does not want to have a tournament without Pakistan, then you say fine, we are pulling out, and you have another series. You invite whichever available teams and do a tri-series and play yourself.
At Hong Kong, I think he suggested.
Wherever, it does not matter. The point is, I don't think in Asia Cup without India, of course it will go on, will even be 10% of any value. And instead, I'm sure the broadcaster, which is coughing up 170 million for 8 years rights to Asia Cup, if you were to offer them that, okay, instead of that I'll do a 4 Nation series, where, see, what is the whole purpose of doing all of this? The purpose is you're trying to say that, listen, till terrorism, cross-border terrorism is halted, comes to an end, we're going to hurt them in every which way possible. It's not just through overt and covert operations, but also diplomatically, economically, and so many other steps you're taking. Well, then I think cricket with its soft power also needs to come in, and that also needs to be used as a tool to then get your eventual motive of ensuring that a country that indulges in these sort of activities, there is a sort of a hindrance in them doing that, or a second thought for them that, listen, before any of these things happens, now it's going to hurt us on different levels. It won't just be militarily, it's going to hurt us in different level, and that's what the government is trying to do. So we're trying to do it in other spheres, then why not cricket as well? And I think that's how it should be. If you ask me personally, to answer the question that I asked everyone, I do not see, I know there is still time to go, but I do not see Asia Cup happening in these circumstances.
So is that the same stance that India would be taking for ICC events as well? Because once you set that example, then you need to do that. And the only problem over there is, ideally this should be the best case scenario, because if India starts pulling out of multinational tournaments, then suddenly the situation changes for all the tournaments that are taking place, and all the teams, if they are in favor of India or not, that's a different thing, but just because of the money would not want to be in that tournament where India isn't, and they'll automatically switch. But then why hasn't India done that? Because ideally this is the best case scenario which could have been exercised at any situation. But then why would, if that was really the situation, because I from the outside for such a long time genuinely believed that India has that power where they can genuinely isolate Pakistan completely. But then why wasn't that exercised till now, and it wasn't done during the Champions Trophy itself, where you sort of also had to agree on some of the conditions that were put by Pakistan?
Because you were not in the it wasn't during the aftermath of almost a war-like situation. No? And now it's a different situation.
You see, for a decades and decades on decades, there has been a very prominent fifth column in India who have said that don't mix politics with sport.
This time I don't think there is anyone.
That thought has been so infectious, and it has ingrained into so many people's important stakeholders' mind, that they're saying, oh no, yaar, what has the poor sports persons of a particular country done? By that logic, I want to tell all those fifth
Then
columnists.
don't involve tourism into sport. Into politics.
Politics, yeah.
Don't involve trade into politics. You have stopped trade also, no? Now for a
Exactly.
lot of countries. I recently read with Bangladesh as well. You've stopped
the tariffs and all the way.
So
Here
so don't involve anything into
the
politics.
Indus Waters Treaty is still in abeyance. You've stopped all import and export. You can't. You've made things difficult. Even if let's say because there are certain businesses which rely on certain minerals and commodities that have to come from Pakistan, so they would then have to be routed through other countries and all. There's a crackdown on those means as well. So now that on so many counts you're trying to isolate Pakistan and hurt their economy. You've already hurt them militarily. You're trying to hurt them in different ways and send a very clear message across. In this backdrop, there's no cricket happening because if that country has one thing to rely upon for recreation or anything to look forward to in terms of sporting brilliance, it's their cricket. It's the one sport that resonates with the populace over there the most. And if you're going to give them just that, then you're actually, taking a step back in this whole war situation that you're fighting on different fronts.
You see, we criticized the IMF, right, for what they had done. They approved a loan in the heights of Operation Sindoor to Pakistan. So if they can be criticized, then if India decides to play Pakistan in the Asia Cup and all those other ICC events, why shouldn't they be criticized?
Yeah, they should.
You should be. Now, I'm telling you, there is going to be a preliminary test of India's diplomatic reach. August 17th to August 31, India are playing a total of 6 games in Bangladesh. 3 T20Is and 3 ODIs. Bangladesh also is hostile at this point in time towards us. Of course, we are not gotten into military confrontation with them, but they are also hostile. Will you and the government now decide, let us not keep anything with Bangladesh also? Because Bangladesh will be the test
But you
case
should at least
of...
start with Pakistan first.
Start with Bangladesh, then target Pakistan. Because it's not as if Bangladesh have been very friendly with us. No, even they have been hostile for the past 5-6 months with us.
But you're not in a war-like situation.
You are threatening in that front.
Yeah, well then Siddharth, that way then you were going to isolate half the world.
that
There'll be
way, by the
issues
way,
with
I think
everyone.
See,
diplomatic.
I understand
Even-
where the Western world is coming from,
Even the
because
Sri Lankan government, for that matter, some of the decisions in the past have sided more with the Chinese, and that's been detrimental to India's progress on a couple of counts. So. Again, as Nikhil was saying, you're not in a war-like situation. Again, these are these economic wars that you keep fighting, and you lose some, you win some, but again, you don't go on to a situation like we saw with Pakistan. It's a different level altogether.
because the blustering that is coming from Bangladesh, especially when they have said on the northeast frontier, that is like you are
Siddharth, that was
pricking
a-
and prodding at that point. in
Then
time.
that way you will now don't play China during the Olympic Games. You can't. Then that way though, you play amongst yourself only. Then
This is
for every
there's going to be
diplomatic
so much.
issue you can't be deciding that we're not going to engage with any country. Where it's come to this, where you've had people, there's been acts of terror committed on your soil, which was sponsored by the intelligence agency and the army of opposition country. Where it's reached this stage, that's when you take certain step. If you're going to look at every diplomatic tussle that you have, then I can name 20 countries here, then you will never play. Then don't play Turkey when they come up against you in a
shooting World Cup,
so
again,
then-
that is going to be the major problem.
I
when
don't
that
think that
happens.
will happen. You cannot then you will remain isolated. For every country will have that way.
Because-
Then America has an issue with half the countries on the planet, then will they not play with them? They've had issue with everyone. They engage with them. So long as these teething issues you will have with most countries, but it's not that US and China don't play each other again, right, when they come up against each other. It's not. But yeah, if they were to reach in a warlike situation, as the America and the Soviet Union did, and that's when they froze their sporting ties, because they were in a situation like that. So
88, 84.
So for every diplomatic issue, you cannot say, no, don't play Bangladesh because this is the thing. Don't play Sri Lanka, then don't play Turkey, then don't play China, then don't play any.
Because see, the problem is, with China, the unfortunate thing is, they backed the terror state in this entire thing. They backed them, okay? But our problems with China are on a different level altogether. So we are not even getting into that. With Bangladesh, the thing is, there is a sizable populace that have come from India and who have gotten lineage from India that are getting persecuted there. Okay. I'm not looking at the broader front, I'm looking at the internal issue that is plaguing us. Again, what will hurt Bangladesh more? Because if India got them into the big stage, it was India's big-heartedness that got Bangladesh into the big stage, right, of cricket. Then that same big heart can say, okay, stop. You have then sent a message indirectly to Pakistan. But if you don't do that, then you are playing Pakistan.
So then you have to stop playing with everyone. That's what I'm saying. Stop playing China in the Olympic Games.
See, the problem
Stop
is...
with every... I mean...
We were having the stumbling block, right? Why would we are discussing this in the aftermath of what has happened in Operation Sindoor? But then this very thought that, oh, we have to now even isolate Pakistan, even that thought, even despite being in a war situation, would have been preposterous 3 months ago. Why? Or even 1 month ago, it would have been preposterous. The rest of the world will say, oh, come on, yaar. Keep sports away from politics. And you know, one Australian journalist has gone out to say, why is India...
Siddharth, you weren't nudged in a manner that you've been nudged and hurt right now. So there was reason, and you can't just come up with a sweeping statement like that when there's no catalyst per se. This was a huge catalyst what happened. So there had to be some sort of strong reaction.
There was a similar push even during Pulwama.
I understand that sentiment, Siddharth. Then you mentioned about 99, you mentioned about 2008, and see, one thing we need to understand as people who talk about sport and represent sport, there are diplomatic things that go way over our head. So perhaps the diplomatic situation in 99 and 2008 was such, and maybe the governments back then, whether they responded aptly or not, that is perhaps for those who follow politics a little more and know about the nitty-gritties, it is for them to comment. But right now, as aware citizens, as what we can see and understand, there's every act that India is doing right now, and even if there's this thing that we need to isolate Pakistan on sporting fields as well, it comes from exactly that, it flows from the same thought that you need to isolate that nation, and this is an India stance now. So it is completely in line with what you are as a nation now holding on to, and that's your stance. So whatever has happened, and this is the stance of today's India. The stance of today could not have been the same in 99 and in 2008.
And even if you did some stance in the past, I mean, doesn't necessarily mean you have to follow that
the same stance. Exactly. Yeah. There is, so every situation, see, again, back then when you talked about Pulwama, your military was targeted. This time innocent civilians are targeted. Though both acts,
ideally,
ideally this time it should be that India pull out.
See, both acts are dastardly, but they're different in their own ways, right? And the reaction is also very different in that way.
My only question here is, which is against what all of us feel will happen, is that right after this, there was a volleyball match between India and Pakistan. Game. And I know that it's not even that high profile, not even close to, not even 2% of the attention, and the economics is also not there. So even if you don't play, it's not going to really hurt Pakistan as you intend to do with cricket and use it as a tool of soft power. I agree, all of those things remain, but even emotionally and, even at a level of sending out a message, ideally that game shouldn't have happened. And I think the government should have looked into that and ensure that volleyball game that happened right after ceasefire was called. I think it was a day.
It was in the middle of what was happening in Operation Sindoor.
It shouldn't have happened.
So we have done a video on that. So what happened is the Indian team played under protest because what was happening.
No, but the under protest and all doesn't
Asian
work.
Cricket team will also be
volleyball and
under
international beach handball, they both sanctioned India. They're threatening them with sanctions, $10,000 fine or a 2-year ban. That was the thing. And then we know the support what we get for our normal players who don't play anything other than cricket. What is the support that they have? There is no livelihood. So then they decided, okay, there was no communication also between the Indian Volleyball Federation as well as with Asia and international. So amidst all this chaos, in the middle of Operation Sindoor, they played in Muscat. And when this was highlighted, when you talk to the general public in India, Doesn't matter. We'll make a big statement in cricket. We'll not play them in the Asia Cup. We won't play them in the ICC event. You can't have a convenient schizophrenic outlook like that. Complete blanket ban means complete blanket ban. This same test failed when we sent our Indian Davis Cup team to Pakistan. It failed. Now, in July, August, September, in the Olympics, there are two countries that test this. I mean, they've got diplomatic tussles. One country is definitely facing the wrath of it. Israel's facing it. South Africa faced it. Other nations have paid the price also. 1976 Montreal, African nations withdrew. Why? Because New Zealand were there. Now, what did New Zealand do? New Zealand toured South Africa. And because of that ban that was there from the Gleneagles agreement, they said, no way, if New Zealand are playing in the Olympics, we won't participate. And Africa, as one unit, decided to block them. So, if you want to be diplomatically isolated and to pay a price for that, knowing where your standing is in cricket, then we shouldn't be scared about it. If you play in isolation also, the game of cricket will die.
Yeah, exactly.
But for that to happen, it must. Then
but
there will be
somewhere scared that cricket in India only dies and cricket continues.
It won't happen. Then if that is the case, then whatever you're making a hula baloo of the IPL being the best, of your Indian cricket being the best, it's all fake.
Yeah, true.
It's fake. That means you don't have any confidence in your economics.
See, I mean, if you look at it in reality wise, a global boycott is a tougher proposition because, again, short term it may not affect you, long term it will. And relevance of the IPL is today because of what happens in international cricket, and that feeds into it. Yes, you can have a temporary suspension to that. Even if you're not participating for 2 ICC tournaments, it will not really affect your IPL, but on the longer run it will, because at the end of the day, even during the IPL, you're seeing the discussion is newer talent that will do well at the international stage. If you're going to be boycotting and antagonizing everyone, and if that talent does not come and play here in a long term, it's going to impact you. May not in the short term, but in a long term it will. And that's why I say that this has to be done with a lot of diplomacy, a lot of sensibility. It can be done, but you need to come up with smarter measures to do it. It just can't be simple binary sort of a thing. Either we play them or we don't. You need to find a more evolved way of not playing them and yet not affecting your global standing in cricket.
Firstly,
also
the government must make an outreach to the top 4 SENA countries, because they hold the financial clout other than India.
So that, you know, why this will have to be done very meticulously, because if you look at the revenue distribution, ICC, again, your Asian Cricket Council is a small customer over here. You want to be, you want to ensure that in all of this, when you have such a stance when it comes to ICC competition, you don't antagonize ICC too much, because let's not take a cricket body for granted. It's they run the sport, because how they give you the revenue percentage as well. So India have roughly about 38.6%.
38%.
So something like that. And that's the biggest chunk. The second team that has the highest chunk is England, which has just a little over 6.5%. That's the second highest. Australia third with 6.25, something like that.
So it's effectively India and
the others, but now they have the parameters as well. So they look at cricketing history of a team, then they look at participation and performance of the men's and women's team over the last 15 years. And there's a third clause as well. So they put together all three things, performance in recent competitions, cricketing history, those things in itself tell you reason enough that long term, then your chunk will reduce from 38%. It could then shrink if such a stance is prolonged.
So you can afford to let go of certain bit of chunk for national interest. Of course you can. But all I said is it will have to be done at a more nuanced level. It just can't be done as
My only concern over here is that if India is genuinely the most powerful board, then they should not be scared of pulling out of ICC tournaments and ACC tournaments. They should ideally isolate Pakistan totally.
Yeah.
You can say
that is an ideal scenario.
They're also a full member.
It's an ideal scenario. But
if you pull out, all the countries can sort of decide on.
That's your assumption, Shashwat.
That is why it has never happened all these years.
That's why I said diplomacy, when you do between countries, doesn't work just like that. It's not your way or the highway. That's where the skills of people or experienced administrators who've had great relationship in the past, that comes in onto the fore, and that's where there's a push and a pull. It just can't be as simple as, you know, like we play gully cricket, bat mera hai to I'm leaving, and you leave. You know, it doesn't. You have to find the right way. Anyway, can we dive into some questions, please, Shivam?
Yeah. Okay, Rahul Dravid Vinod is saying, bring back Australasia Cup.
Oh, I used to love that.
Yeah, and let Oz and Ind host alternatively SL, Afghanistan and New Zealand as the other countries. This will have higher viewership than Asia Cup with PAK. I mean, you did have an Australasia Cup from the 80s until 1990s. So, that was a good tournament. But even in that Australasia Cup, you had Pakistan also. So, that is why somewhere down there, you need to bring back those quadrangulars or those triangulars. I think you may see a rebirth of that. For cricket, that might be necessary in this current saturation.
India haven't taken part in a triangular in such a long time. We still saw a triangular series take place in recent months, but India haven't been a part of one.
Nidhas was the
last. 2018. 2018 was the last one. Yeah. Go down further.
Freaking awesome says, come on people, news channel celebrities only question the past governments. Remember how everyone reacted in the past. No, it's not about governments. All governments have been equally guilty, by the way. We just discussed it, at different levels. So, and Siddharth did mention chronology of the events. It involved both sets of government. So it's not just one.
Yeah.
He goes on to add that he loves tri-series. Hope they will bring back ODIs into
Sharjah.
Yeah,
Played in Sharjah.
Even the Australia series that used to have used to be great fun.
Awesome it was.
Yeah.
The VB series, the CB series,
Commonwealth Bank
series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Amit is saying if Asia Cup, if India pull out, who will broadcast it? No, there will be broadcasters who will do it, Amit. But at the end of the day, it will not be at the same value. It will be very diluted. And I think most participating countries will realize, because at the end of the day, that revenue is distributed against participating countries. And so it's going to be, and that's why I said that India, at least at the Asia Cup to begin with, can really play hardball. They can do it.
But I never said anything against India also.
No, don't have to.
Yeah.
Don't have to justify it.
Yeah. Then, yeah. So, Animesh is saying quadrangular series between India, Australia, South Africa and India would be far competitive and interesting. But I think they are not available at that time.
Yeah. Not
you need
all.
to have availability of which teams are there in the fray in that sense. So, England is finished, add New Zealand instead. I don't know about that on current form. England do not inspire you that much, but yeah, who knows with that.
No.
No.
Uska kabhi nahi lena hai.
Yeah.
Don't.
West Indies are good in T20s, but then we are looking at ODIs.
No, you have to
and
do
T20Is
T20s
also,
only, no?
but
This Asia Cup was anyway.
it's anyway T20, yeah, because it's in the World Cup that's going to happen.
शिवम यार क्या क्वेश्चन लिखा है?
Okay.
Okay, Jaswinder is saying that why ask for a boycott of Bangladesh? You don't want to isolate everyone, and I think that's exactly what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
That if that level you'll have issues with a lot. I'm not saying all, but a lot of countries. So for everything, you can't be, playing hardball and saying that I'm not going to play with you.
I mean, I understand one country that doesn't have any friends in the neighborhood, but they're still holding on fine.
No, but Siddharth, I don't think you'd want to be in a situation like that.
See, we have been blessed, I may say, with hostile neighbors. I mean, what can you do about it?
That's not blessed. It's
I mentioned sarcasm. We have been blessed with very, very unfortunate neighbors who've had a history of antagonism against us. So that is why I really don't know how do I make out. But then see, the problem is at this point in time, if we do that, it's a huge issue that's there. So yep. Crystal Days is there, okay, from the UK. Sid, last night, SAF under 19 final, India versus Bangladesh played and India won. Yes, we have done a video on that also. Bangladesh is not done terrorist activity in India. These are two different things. If listening to said India only plays sports against Russia and Israel, but then see, a certain country gets isolated because it wants to assert its national right. I don't know about Russia. Russia has always had a beef with Ukraine. They didn't agree with the split in 2004. But Israel, the right to self-defend is going very well against them. They have every right to defend themselves, but they are getting panned. We want to do that, but we have been held down by a prominent fifth column that's been there.
That's, see, again, the fifth column and all, again, in this whole conversation, there was nobody that projected that kind of a stance. But what Crystal Days is saying, again, it's about, see, what he's also trying to say is that you can't pick up battles when there aren't. These diplomatic, little fissures that you'll keep having these little troubles with some countries every, now and then. But if you then, make this as a policy that every little fissure and then that's going to result in no cricket, no this, no that, then survival could become difficult from an economic standpoint, Siddharth.
True. I mean, that is, see, you take any decision in the Asia Cup or in the ICC event, there will be financial losses and you'll have to be ready for it.
And when you take, my point is, when you're taking these big calls, then it needs to come as an aftermath to something big, which is now what it is, what we're experiencing right now and will be seeing in times to come, is going to be India's firm and strong stance to the terrorist activity that happened on the 22nd.
Yep. That is why you need to have a diplomatic outreach even in the sporting community. Tell the respective heads of state of your respective countries that, boss, we can't turn the other cheek and ensure we get a slap.
Remember, India had submitted a dossier to the ICC for the Champions Trophy as well.
About an intelligence
threat, and you documented how there have been terrorist activities that have come out of Pakistan sponsored. So there was a dossier that India had sent out. So again, these things will continue to happen, I think, because India has already made that point, and you made a very strong case and partially got things the way that you wanted in the Champions Trophy.
Yep.
And going forward, this is again going to be something that India will have to do.
Correct. You'll have to do it because you've missed so many opportunities in 25 years. This, you have to do it this time. And that's why even one of our other family users is saying, boycott Asia Cup, isolate Pak. That is what he has also stated. But if it happens in September, then I don't know how will I react to it, because if this doesn't hurt you and if this doesn't awake you, then I don't know what will. So that is why no terrorist rogue entity you should play with anymore, because then you are only filling up the coffers for them to furtherize their propaganda at this point in time. So it is really a big problem. Amit Sharma saying, but it is a response to someone else. In Asia Cup, revenue is generated to the Indian team. If we pull out, revenue also drops. Indeed, it does. Revenue, you have to be ready for this kind of things. You have to be ready for it. But how ready will you be? I don't know. Then freaking awesome. I have no problem in boycotting Bangladesh and Turkey. Why don't we do the same with China? They are supporting Pakistan too. It is because they are economic giant. I don't like this double standard. But then, as I said, you can't, why would you have to pick fights in the neighborhood? Although I am a fan of it. If you are really confident about your economy, then you should do it. But that doesn't happen in that way. So yes, we are now going to build up to the IPL. 25 minutes away now. We'll be doing the toss of LSG versus SRH. Simple equation, LSG lose, only MI and DC is there in the fray.
It's a shootout between
Shootout on 21st. And if DC win, then your playoff race is alive until Saturday.
Yeah.
Then PBKs take on DC. So we'll be back with the toss for LSG versus SRH from me, Shashwat, Nikhil and Harshit. It is bye-bye. See you soon.